Welcome, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to TommyTruthful.com, where we decode the matrix to deprogram the masses. Today's episode is brought to you from Body Align, the 5G cellular protection. All the links are down below in the description. Let's pin this video. We're going to be talking about the War of the Gods, which is manifesting itself here in the 3D now. And you can find the blog with all the video links in it, the whole timeline over on TommyTruthful.com. This one took me a lot of research to find the right stuff for it. So we just was live and they were messing with our audio, so I started it over to make sure that they couldn't mess it up. Okay, let's pin this to the top. There we go. Make sure we got it pinned, guys, before we get going. Yep, it's pinned. Cool, perfect. Okay, so you'll see all the links are right there to our website, the 5G protection, the silver and gold. That's, you know, they're collapsing the dollar right now, so the best thing to do is invest in silver and gold. And then shout out to everybody that donated to our Cash App yesterday and to our PayPal. We are self-funded up against this beast system, so we appreciate y'all 100% for all your love and support. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now, our Rumbles down here, our YouTube, which is Nephilim Killer, and Federal Fair Use. Let me put that up real quick, because they always try to mess with me. Mark Zuckerberg loves it, you know. Mark, fall back, dude. Federal Fair Use. Copyright disclaimer: under Section 107 of Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, research, fair use, and parody. This is educational purposes, and I have the permission of all the people to use these videos. So, Mark, if you even try that, I'll sue you. You know, we promote, if I ever use someone's video, the first link is to my video on Rumble, but I got a couple other videos in here, and if I ever use someone's video, I always promote their page. I put all their links in here. You know, it's free marketing for their platform, and you'll never see one that's this detailed about this war. And if you look in between Delphi and Greece, right, it's talking about this war of these two entities, which are these interdimensional entities. I don't believe they come from a far star system. I believe they're all interdimensional. That's my opinion, though. So, this is Carrie Cassidy. Shout out to Carrie. I recently visited the birthplace of Zeus on Crete in the temples at Delphi in Greece. I was struck by the way the ancient Greece and their ideals match those of the Palladians, and how their gods are basically the Palladian elders. I recently went to Rome very briefly, and on entering the Vatican Square became somewhat ill, was conscious of a large vortex on which it is built. The Vatican reptilian connection is very strong, and evidence is all around. When I visited the temples at Delphi, it became clear that the real site of the Oracle of Delphi, the inspiration for the settlement built there, was now hidden and replaced with a structure like the Roman Colosseum style stadiums. In particular, the Temple of Apollo is said to hide the entrance to the Oracle of Delphi, and does have a place where the head priestess was said to deliver the information to the rulers and kings. However, the temple itself has no clear structure honoring the oracle or describing the way that the priestess and the priest were chosen and spent time accessing information from other dimensions, including prophecy about the future. I was also traveling around Athens, and the ravages of the result of the economic bankruptcy and the acts of the European Union to destroy the economy of Greece. Empty Structures were everywhere with graffiti-covered walls and abandoned buildings, both in Athens and outside the city. These companies appear not to have been restarted, but instead there are no signs of life. And this goes back to the reptilians as well. It is evident that the hatred of Rome, the Illuminati, dark magicians, and the Vatican that rule the European Union can be seen as the same as the Roman emperors of old, and that the rivalry between Greece and Rome we're still seeing today, which is the Palladians and the Anunnaki, and then you had the takeover of the Draco, the reptilians, right? These reptilian humanoids, which some people have different beliefs on it. I believe the Anunnaki created them, which the Anunnaki are the Watchers, the fallen angels. Now we have all the volcanoes blowing up all around the world, guys. And, you know, according to the Palladian messenger and whistleblower Eddie Page, a Draco invasion is headed our way to arrive in the next 2 years. As I understand it, at the same time, he predicts great volcanism with super volcanoes in Yellowstone erupting and sending a chain reaction to the volcanoes of the western U.S., including, as I have seen, Mount Rainier. So I've been saying this for years now, that they're going to blow up Yellowstone. And it's in all the natural disaster movies about pole shift. And Nibiru's connected to the return of Nibiru, the return of the gods, right? And they're mining for these rare earth minerals in these dormant volcanoes, allegedly, which they're causing a lot of these things to blow up too. You know, a lot of them they're causing to blow up. But there's a whole timeline down here lining up, in all the videos you'll see the links. I mean, this is probably one of the best timelines between this ancient war, who they played in history, connected to the biblical aspects of it. You know, in the old scripture it says the Nephilim are the sons of Anak and the fallen angels. And here's the timeline, 5000 to 311 BCE. And the pandemic was on 311. Fukushima was on 311. They love that 311 number, don't they? Love it. But you'll see that it's a very long timeline connected to Nibiru, Nemesis, how, you know, their lifespans are different, and then it ties into the royal bloodlines. I mean, it has everything. Everything I could possibly find on this information, I put all in here for you guys. Here's the Anunnaki Nibiru royals. So let's start out with the first video first.
If you can see in the tablet picture where the battle has eroded the appearance of atomic...
The unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. On the left is the papal seal in the Vatican, and on the right becomes Satan, the dragon, because they worship these interdimensional entities. Now up top there on the left is an alien, a gray, and on the right is a drawing of a demon lamb that Aleister Crowley manifested up. Looks very similar, right? So we have these lower vibrational archons that thrive on loose negative energy. They're interdimensional entities. They're not coming from space. Alien's a made-up word, but, you know, that's what the masses call them. But there's also angelic beings, and we're getting ready to see the war of the gods manifest.
Unearth the secrets of the past. The war between Anunnakis and Pleiadians. In the story of cuneiform tablet, the Anunnaki arrived on Earth 450,000 years ago looking for minerals. They began mining in Africa. When Anunnaki miners became displeased with working conditions, it was decided that Anunnaki genes and Homo erectus genes would be engineered to create slaves to replace the miners, thus resulting in Homo sapiens, or mankind as we know it. The story of Pleiadians said that they came from outer space and landed on Earth. The Anunnaki called them Hebrew or Hebiru. When the time they came down, Their mission is to conquer the Earth, but they are repelled by the Anunnakis in the first battle. Pleiadians retreated, then attacked again to revenge and won the battle, but during that time the Anunnaki skies are no longer in Earth. The only left are the direct descendants of Anunnakis race, the Sumerians. In the clay tablet also said that the Sumerians suffered horribly. The depressions grow stronger day by day, resulting the Sumerians became weak. Then Sargon the Great came and conquered the Sumerian cities. The Sumerians had advanced civilization in ancient times. The army are powerful and rich, but they lost battle against Pleiadians. But the big question is how they lost to extraterrestrials conquerors. When the cuneiforms studied by the archaeologists, they found a deadly radioactive cloud looks like an atomic bomb. Because of the findings, many archaeologists and historians believe that a nuclear war happened in the battle between Anunnakis and Pleiadians. The evidence exists in Sinai Peninsula, where a big crater made by a massive explosion. If you will see the picture, that there are black part in the middle. This can be happens when...
And just think of the Hindu gods, the War of the Gods, guys. It was talking about, you know, this weapon that was used, and it made women's wombs bare and hair fall out and fingernails fall off, and it turned the sand into glass.
Something big explosion or hit the ground. There is one thing in the earth can do a massive damage like this, and that is the atomic bomb. Let's give the benefit of the doubt in this story. Maybe the big creature made by an asteroid that hits on the earth 1,000 years ago. Ancient astronaut believes there's a nuclear war happened in ancient times. Because there are unsealed radioactivity near the Dead Sea and also near the crater. In scientific terms, the radioactive will only rise when someone or something use a nuclear weapon. If you can see in the tablet picture where the battle has eroded, the appearance of atomic bomb and the present atomic bomb are the same. Is this a coincidence? Or this is a evidence that the Anunnakis and Pleiadians used a nuclear weapons? The battle was happened during 2024 BC, the same time when the exact story of Sodom and Gomorrah happened. You can find the story of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Hebrew Bible and in Quran. The Sodom and Gomorrah are two cities it describes rich and powerful. The peoples are wicked and sinners. In the story of the judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah is told in Genesis 18 to 19. 3 men come to Abraham in the plains of Mamre. After the angels received the hospitality of Abraham and Sarah, the Lord reveals to Abraham that he would confirm what he had heard against Sodom and Gomorrah, and because their sin is very grievous. Abraham inquires if the Lord will spare the city should 50 righteous people be found within it, to which the Lord agrees. Abraham then pleads for mercy at successively lower numbers, first 45, then 40, then 30, then 20, and finally 10, with the Lord agreeing each time. 2 angels are sent on before them to Sodom and are met by Abraham's nephew Lot, who convinces them to lodge with him, and he serves them a meal. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both young and old, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men that came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them, can have sex with them. Lot refused to give his guests to the inhabitants of Sodom, and, instead, offered them his 2 virgin daughters which have not known man, and to do ye to them as is good in your eyes. They refused this offer, complained about this alien, namely Lot, judging them, and then came near to break down the door. Lot's angelic guests rescued him and struck the men with blindness, and they informed Lot of their mission to destroy the city. Then they commanded Lot to gather his family and leave. As they made their escape, one angel commanded Lot to look not behind thee. As Sodom and Gomorrah were being destroyed with brimstone and fire from the Lord, Lot's wife looked back at the city, and she became a pillar of salt. These are theories of Sumerians and judgment of Sodom and Gomorrah. 1. Sumerians and Sodom Gomorrah destroyed by the air attack. If you can recall the Bible and Cuneiform's clay tablet. 2. They are both advanced technologies, rich culture. 3. They are similarities in the location near Dead Sea as Sinai Peninsula. 4. The Sinai Peninsula has 2 craters. What if this are a location of Sodom and Gomorrah? 5. What if the Sumerians are the people of Sodom and Gomorrah? 7. Anunnakis called the Pleiadians Hebrew or Hibyr. 8. What if the 2 angels who visit Lot's house are commanders or soldiers of Pleiadians? What if the stories of Sumerians clay tablet, Hebrew Bible, Quran Muslim are the interpretation of their
thousands of times in the Sumerian tablets, which is still the oldest written record, or the oldest transcribed written record of human history in large numbers, large quantities. There are older scripts and older recorded writings in humanity, but we haven't deciphered them. And the stories that we get from that are phenomenal. We realize that everything we read about in the Bible is first written about in great detail in the Sumerian texts. You know, from the creation of the universe, the creation of heaven and earth, and the creation of Adam, and this is very much a part of the Anunnaki construct. The fact that they manipulated the DNA so that we could become a species that could be controlled. Remember, they need a species that can follow orders, repeat the same tasks over and over again without getting bored or wandering off into the bush and looking for water or something else, you know, and also have the capacity to be controlled through fear. Because you can't, instill fear into an animal. You can't tell the animal, if you don't do this, I'm going to punish you. The animals don't understand that. So that needed to be encoded into our DNA and into the capacity of our brain, of our understanding. And this is where I believe the frontal lobe became such an important part of our anatomy, that they had to give the species a big enough frontal lobe to be able to manipulate them enough, and then split the brain in half. So you got the creative side, and you got the controllable side, the regimental side, and created a perfect model for a slave species. Human beings are apparently the only animal that has a split brain. So how is that possible? When did this happen? And remember that the Anunnaki had a beautiful term for, according to the Sumerian translations, had a beautiful term for what we call DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid. You know, what the hell is that? It's a word that most people on the street don't even know. You know, they say DNA, but they don't even know what it stands for. And yet, in the
Lost son of the Anunnaki. Human history. All about the genetics, man. 23andMe, what they're doing right now with the whole Rona thing, you know, genetically modifying the masses to hook them up to the hive mind. This, I believe, was one of the original crosses to make the root racist. One of the original melanated crosses, because the Anunnaki were Caucasians with blue eyes. Every person on the planet down here, it wasn't monkeys or gorillas, it was melanated people. They had whole civilizations already. Some people think they were made by a whole nother race or the Most High, whatever you want to say. Enki came down, which is the story of the 200 fallen angels that descended to Mount Haran, manipulated the genome, and this was one of the original crosses. There's tribes in Africa that are Caucasian and blue eyes, and they've been in Africa since day one, you know. I mean, India too has these same tribes. Then the Denisovans, which were in Siberian mountains and shit. They had really thick bones, the Denisovans. Dark skin, Malaysian tribes with natural blonde hair, and some of them very beautiful blue eyes. 1756, Charles D. Brose wrote about an old black race. Now, some of the clay tablets that I was reading, it said the Anunnaki had fair skin with a grayish hue to it. Now, see, my opinion is it's all interdimensional, everything. I don't believe space how they tell us it's supposed to be. The whole heliocentric model, which comes from the Vatican, and the worship of Helios, their false god. And NASA is a Hebrew word, nasha, to deceive. The Greys, I 100% believe them little bastards are demons. But I believe there's angelic entities as well. That, you know, in the recent times, they're calling them aliens, which a lie. You know, just changing the name. And if you look into Jack Parsons, when he opened up that portal in 1946, which he was carrying on Aleister Crowley's Amalantra workings, who he manifested up Lamb, what happened? Boom, the next year Roswell happens. The Majestic 12 set up the shadow
Archons,
government.
these interdimensional entities that Adolf Hitler was working with through the Vril and Thule Society. And I believe these are negative entities, what we call demons. We see the elites running around with the black eyes. That comes from an ancient soul-scraping ritual from the Book of the Dead. Yolderboth, connected to the Archons in the Boule, which is the black branch of Freemasonry. They call each other Archon and Arcanist. We remember Aleister Crowley manifested up this entity that looked very much like one of the Greys. Now, it was a demon named Lamb. So I believe there's negative entities that are feeding off lower negative vibrations, and I believe there's angelic entities that are connected to the Creator. Because all the UFOs, and this is angelic technology, it's also demonic technology, because they take anything sacred and holy and invert it. Knowledge is power. TommyTruthful.com.
It's all about duality. So I believe they can't create themselves, right? So they take anything the Creator has created and they invert it and use it for a negative means. So ever since the beginning of humanity, numerous theories revolving around the origins of mankind have been proposed. One such possible theory, as per the ancient cultures, is the possibility of the historical aliens between the Anunnaki and Palladians, this war that took place. And in this war, the Palladians would have been the good ones, which was what Adolf Hitler was really looking for, the Aryan gods. Earth is the only planet that supports life and continues to be a real enigma according to science and religion, which we know they're liars anyways, though. The foundations of humanity are perfectly established, but coming across the records of ancient cultures, those that existed during the time, we realized that the story is totally different. How did humanity emerge on the planet Earth in the first place? And then you can find this other culture that's called the Nomo people. Look into the Nomos. They're an aquatic entity, and that's connected to Dagon and his whole little tribe, which, you know, the Pope worships a reptilian god, Dagon. That's who the Pope worships, really. They are what would have been called the Canaanites of the Bible. Nimrod, Dagon. The return of Nimrod from the world of the dead. It's all tied into Babylon, you know what I'm saying? These little, that's where the fish comes from, not Jesus, from Dagon. And the Philistines worship Dagon, and they stole the Ark of the Covenant. The next day they came in, all their people were breaking out with plagues, and all their crops were failing. Mice overran their city, and they came into their temple, and Dagon was fell in front of the Ark of the Covenant. And so then they made an offering to this god, saying, "Oh wow, your God must be a greater God than Dagon." And they, but they went right back to worshiping their God, though, in the end, which is kind of. On Enlil, who was Enki's brother, Enki Ea, the master geneticist, So in the Sumerian mythology, the Anunnaki were the pantheon of good and evil gods and goddesses duality, who came to Earth to create human races, the Watchers, the 200 fallen that descended to Mount Haran. To some resources, these gods came from Nibiru. One of the best known theories about human creation mentions the Anunnaki settled on Earth, developing cities and control bases. It is believed that they were extremely similar to modern humans in the aspect of physical appearance. Simply put, they were humanoid in appearance. However, the major difference between these beings and the humans was their skin, which is a grayish hue in comparison. Now, down here, I have another video for you. This was written by Nancy Themis, and this video here goes to her page, so shout out to her.
"4,000 years ago, I would not have had to tell you this, since if you lived in those times you would have been taught this in school, but 4,000 years of a powerful directed misinformation campaign have taken their toll, and it'll take me some effort here to clarify some basics for you. The Sumerian civilization is the oldest known human civilization on Earth. Their gods were called the Anunnaki, which in Sumerian means those who from heaven to earth came. It blossomed out almost overnight, around 3800 BC, in Mesopotamia."
And that's interesting too, guys, because all the murder by number stuff with 38 and connected to Nibiru, the first time the Washington Post released the article about Nibiru was in 83, the reflection of 38. Adolf Hitler seen Nibiru in the sky in 38, and that's on our page, TommyTruthful.com. And they censored it everywhere. And how they killed Malachi Martin, the secret, which was tied to the Vatican and the Jesuit. Malachi Martin was a Jesuit. They killed him after he went on that radio show talking about the secret.
"The land between the two rivers, Tigris and Euphrates, and came to a sudden end in 2024 BC, when it was laid waste by a..."
Also interesting, the 2024 BC, it was laid to waste. And this prophecy connected to 2024 coming up in the 2024 Great American Eclipse that makes the final X on America. X marks the spot, and that's 4/8. Illuminati's 48. 4/8 of 2024, which is how long Pluto is in 27 degrees Capricorn. It came here on 2/22 of 2022, the first time since 1776, the birth of America, the birth of the Illuminati, and it's here till 4/8 of 2024 during the Great American Eclipse, which Pluto is said to be the moon of Saturn, Gaga, that was hit by Nibiru, and that's our modern day Pluto.
Deadly radioactive cloud, brought by easterly winds from the Sinai Peninsula, where according to some ancient records, a nuclear war took place. The huge black scar in the face of the Earth, in the southeastern part of the Sinai Peninsula, and the blackened stones that show signs of being instantly melted by extreme intense heat. There is more evidence. Higher than normal levels of radioactivity have been found in the Dead Sea. The site of Sodom and Gomorrah have been nuked at the same time. and in the land of Sumer itself. A recent study has found that around the time of the destruction of Sumer, there was a sudden climate change there, the nature of which is consistent with a nuclear fallout. The Sumerian civilization disappeared around 2000 BC, just as suddenly as it appeared. It is clear that its fall was very tragic, as many Sumerian lamentation texts have been found bewailing the destruction and desolation of various Sumerian cities. All these lamentation texts blame the destruction on the use of some weapons of terror and some great deadly cloud. The detailed descriptions of their effects leave no doubt that the weapons of terror were nuclear weapons. The intercontinental ballistic missiles that dropped nuclear warheads on Sodom and Gomorrah were launched from Africa and belonged to the Anunnaki. The Sumerian-era epic lists 5 cities, along with the spaceport in the Sinai, that were nuked, Sodom and Gomorrah being only 2 of them. The Bible goes into more detail as to what was actually going on. History had it that, following the invasion of the Pleiadians, helped by Abram, the Anunnaki met in their assembly, and decided to nuke the spaceport, so that it did not fall into the hands of the Pleiadians. Armed with proper understanding of who the ancient gods really were, we can now properly address the question of why do we not see them and their advanced technologies among us, and why have we not seen them over the past few centuries? Where did they go? Zechariah Sitchin does not answer, or even address this question, and for the most part ends his Earth Chronicles in 2024 BC. In my research, I have found that all evidence points...
I'm going to tell you about Zechariah. He's an agent, first of all. Zechariah Sitchins is a 33rd degree Freemason and a Jesuit. So, like they do with anything, they try to attach disinformation to it. Now, the whole Bible was derived from these Sumerian and Mesopotamian tablets, right? And what they're saying is the Pleiadians would have been tied to Abraham and the angelic beings, and these Anunnaki were the fallen angels. That's the story of this war of the gods that the Hindu culture talks about. It's in the Bible. You know, I'm not saying whether it's real or not. That's up to you to look into. I do believe in a lot of it is derived from there, and I definitely believe in interdimensional entities. I believe in the Anunnaki. They're in the original Bible. The Anunnaki, the Nephilim, are the sons of Anak. I mean, I don't think they can lie with the word of the Creator, but they have manipulated it and changed it so much. So, you know, I definitely believe there's a positive, angelic, higher vibrational entity, and there's a demonic, lower vibrational entity. That's all interdimensional. I don't think they're coming from far star systems. That's my personal view on it.
To the Anunnaki gods, being overpowered and forced off the earth by Yahweh of Judeo-Christianity over the period from around 2000 BC to 1000 AD. The trouble started around 2000 BC, when just as the Anunnaki were fighting between themselves over whether Enki's son Marduk would get his wish to take control over the human settlements from the other Anunnaki gods, something very strange was happening to a man of Sumerian descent named Abram. He received directions from some god. Logic suggests that this god was God Yahweh of Judaism, but there is no direct proof of this so far. The first appearance of Yahweh on earth is at the time of Exodus and the creation of the state of Israel in 1433 BC. But regarding the creation of humankind, Yahweh had his version of history that has been taught to people over the past 3,500 years. Enki was the devil. Enki appears in the Bible as Nahash, the serpent, who seduced Adam and Eve. So who was Yahweh? He was a god in the same sense in which the Anunnaki were gods. He was a ruler, a head of state, of the Pleiadians. He led the human slaves out of Egypt and into the Palestinian land he had picked for his state of Israel. Like the Anunnaki, he was also a real physical force, not a myth in people's minds. Some thinkers have been puzzled by how could the Jews so easily escape the Pharaoh's troops and defeat all the indigenous people of Canaan, who put up a defense against their invasion, even though the Jews were never particularly good warriors. Along the way to their promised land, they sacked the great city of Jericho. Jericho was the oldest city on earth, built around 8500 BC. Jericho was obviously built by the Anunnaki, not by humans. As the oldest city on Earth and a major Anunnaki fortress, it was a repository of cultural valuables for thousands of years. The Jews laid it waste. But the question is, how did they manage to do it? Jericho was a major Anunnaki outpost and certainly very well fortified. How could a mob armed with weapons no more advanced than axes and spears and arrows overpower a fortified Anunnaki city, with guards armed with laser guns? The Jews themselves, of course, say that their God Yahweh helped them do it. And indeed he did. A close reading of the Bible reveals that as the Jews were marching from Egypt to their promised land, there was a UFO flying overhead. The accounts from the other side of the conflict confirm this. Yahweh was indeed responsible, and it was his ship that overpowered the defenses put up by the indigenous people of Canaan and their Anunnaki leaders. That is how the Judeo-Christian God forced the Anunnaki and their slave human followers out of Palestine. Yahweh wanted to take the control of the whole earth away from the Anunnaki. Over the millennium and a half before the birth of Christ, long and bitter wars were fought between Israel headed by Yahweh and the Anunnaki leaders. After centuries of bitter warfare, the Pleiadians were winning until a nuclear attack by the Anunnaki, mentioned before. The Middle East was lost to the Anunnaki. The Pleiadians had to evacuate to Western Europe. Where did the Anunnaki go? They settled in Eastern Europe. They became the gods of some ancient European people. Rome appears to be yet another culture under the aegis of the Anunnaki. The Roman gods were copied from the Greek ones, and the Greeks were Anunnaki. The head of the Roman pantheon is generally thought of as Jupiter, a parallel of the Greek Zeus, whom I have determined to be the same person as the Hittite Baal and the Semitic Shamash, the commander of space operations of the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki were forced out of the Middle East first, then out of Europe. Their last home on Earth was ancient Russia, and when it was Christianized...
Yeah, see, that one girl, she thought that the Greeks would have been like the Palladian elders, but it wouldn't make sense. If you think the Romans are the Anunnaki, then the Greeks cannot be the Palladian elders, because the Greek gods are the same as the damn Roman gods. You know what I'm saying? Zeus is Jupiter. Zeus is Thor. Zeus is freaking Enlil. That's who it is.
The Anunnaki gods had to take off in their rockets and leave the Earth. Many of them probably went back to their home planet, but others may be closer, no farther than the moon. Muslims recognize Allah as the moon god, and there is plenty of moon symbols.
Allah is Sin. His real name is Sin, the moon god Sin, who Sin is the son of maybe Enlil, I think? We'll check after this.
In Islam. The Anunnaki controlled the Middle East through Islam. After the Anunnaki left the Middle East, the people living there continued to worship them. Chief among them in certain lands was Allah. The timing only confirms this hypothesis. All this was happening at exactly the same time with Europe and Russia became Christian. Besides the general evidence for an active non-human base on the moon, it is widely rumored in certain circles that the US astronauts received very little welcome from the operators of this base. Simply put, the Yankees were told that they are not welcome on the moon and should go back to where they came from. The moon program was hastily abandoned as a result. I also suspect that the Soviets never went there not because they couldn't, but because they already knew. If the moon base is under Anunnaki command, as I suspect, their lack of hospitality to Uncle Sam's ambassadors is quite understandable. The present-day American imperialism, hated by the rest of the world, is almost certainly of Anunnaki origin. When the European thinkers of the Renaissance rediscovered the ancient Egyptian teachings, they associated themselves first and foremost with the Egyptian goddess Isis. Sitchin has shown that Isis was the great-great-granddaughter of Anunnaki leader Enki. Enki led a separate faction of the Anunnaki that I believe was partially Syrian, as Enki's mother was apparently from Sirius, the brightest star as seen from Earth. It seems like several attempts were made.
I got Syrian, North Basque Spain region, and Sicilian, which my North Basque Spain region has Irish royal bloodline in it, which most people that were Ireland, Scotland, in the Basque Spain region were all descendants from the Tartarian Empire, which were descendants of Atlantis. And then the Syrian, believe it or not, comes out of my Sicilian side, which Sicilian, what makes you a Sicilian, it was like one of the melting pots of the Mediterranean. You have the original Greek in you. You have Spaniard, which I already had that anyways. Arabic, it's usually Syrian. Sometimes it's Morocco. It depends, but you have some Arabic in you. And Northeast African, which is from Carthagena, from Hannibal. Remember when he invaded over the Alps, his outpost was in Sicily. That's why Sicilians are so much darker than the northern Italians, which are light skinned, green eyes. Some of them are dark, but most of them are light skinned. And we speak a whole different language. It's not a different dialect. It's a totally different language, like French versus Spanish. You know what I'm saying? Totally different.
And recovering the Earth long after it was taken over by the Pleiadians, and all other Anunnaki fled in their spaceships. As it turns out, there is a very well-known city on Earth that still bears her name. That city is Paris. Paris was founded around 300-200 BCE, and its original Latin name is Par Isis, the city of Isis. In light of this knowledge and of the fact that France was a major center of the Enlightenment, coupled with some other curious facts, for example that Josephine, Napoleon's wife, considered herself almost a reincarnation of Isis, or that the French have copied many Egyptian elements and seriously contemplated building their own stone pyramids, a case can be made for the hypothesis that the Renaissance, which significantly weakened the Catholic Church, was none other than another attempt by the Anunnaki to take this planet back from the Pleiadians. It looks like that attempt was a partial success and partial failure. It wasn't entirely successful, as the French Revolution was not carried all the way to a permanent regime change to bring back ancient Egypt under the Anunnaki. But it was a partial success in that feudalism gave way to capitalism. The internal contradiction.
Well, I definitely don't believe in no damn Catholic churches, the Pleiadians. I know for a fact they're the reptilians. And the reptilians, from my research, it looks like were created by the Anunnaki and the Greys. So I think the Anunnaki, the Greys, the reptilians are all one little branch fighting versus these other angelic entities. And then, Max Spears, who was a super soldier in the super soldier program, he said the same thing. He said there was two big factions. One was a Zionist faction, and one was a damn Nazi faction. And they were working with interdimensional entities. Sounds like some demon shit to me.
Predictions of wild capitalism led to revolutionary situations forming in Russia and Germany. But the two countries took drastically different paths. As the hidden war between the Anunnaki and the Pleiadians took a new turn, I believe that the Cold War was actually that very same cosmic war, with the Soviets being on the side of the Anunnaki and the US being on the side of Pleiadians. Stalin's father was a Nyaz. Nyazi were the olden Russian nobility stemming from pre-Tsarist ancient Russia. They probably allied with the Anunnaki to take Russia back. They now control Earth once.
The communist Anunnakis, these communist fucks. But America's been infiltrated too. Cold War is long and went. You know, these bastards have totally been infiltrated over here and are not working for the good side. That much we know now. But yeah, see, Cassie's blog, which she had an amazing blog on her point of view and everything. I just disagree with that top part because I believe the gods of Greece are the same gods of Rome, and if the Roman gods are the Anunnakis, then the Greece gods have to be the Anunnaki. It's just what it is. You know, I believe the Palladian and the angelic entities are connected to the Bible. Now, whatever your view is on the Bible, that's cool. We know it's been manipulated. We know it's been changed a whole lot, right? So this one right here is by this PhD. She's amazing, Sasha. And guys, I mean, she literally kills it. The whole freaking thing. It's so in detailed and lays out a whole timeline for you. It's amazing. I mean, it's a lot of reading, but you also got a lot of good videos in this blog. And me personally, I love long blogs, you know, because I like to learn. And if it's good information, I get caught up in it, and then I hate when they're over, actually. But I know some people don't have the attention span to put this type of reading in. But for the people that do, it's there. I mean, you don't have to read the whole thing if you don't want to. I just didn't want to leave nothing out because she had so much great information. I'm like, oh no, we're going to put all that in there. And then down here is the evidence, the reference, the timeline, who's who, new stuff. I put all of her links in there for her. The video. Before we get into that one, though, right up here. Okay, should we? Yeah, right here. This is hers too, though. Anunnaki Timeline, Murduke. Yeah, this is a great one, guys. This video is awesome right here. And thank you for all the people that shared this video. We got 2 donations, Josh and Karen. Thank both of you guys. I love y'all. And a big shout out to all you guys that shared this, because we can't do it without you guys. So thank you, and I appreciate you. I love reading blog. Me too. I love reading blogs like something I'm into. You know, I hate the short ones. Plenty British. Air. Tommy's a teacher. Yes, times, brother. I hope you're okay. And who knows about lady hashtag true. Hold on a second, guys. Let me read a couple of these. Best content, Tommy. Oh, thank you, Marcus. Appreciate y'all, all of y'all. LJ, what's up? Tommy, I share on Messenger, by the way. Well, thank you, Nicole. And I know I see you always comment and support, so I appreciate you. Appreciate all y'all. You know that. I love y'all. Now, this video's pretty fire.
Instance of the Anunnaki and their arrival to Earth can explain many accounts which mainstream scholars cannot. There are those who believe that the ancient Anunnaki never existed and that extremely advanced civilizations never existed on Earth. However, in the last couple of years, a lot of researchers are changing their methodology and starting to think open-mindedly. The ancient alien astronaut theory presupposes that thousands of years ago, even before recorded history, our planet was visited by astronauts from another world, intelligent beings with technology beyond our own today. Many archaeologists around the world consider modern-day Iraq as the cradle of civilization. Between 3500 and 1900 BC, the Tigris and Euphrates River were the home of the Sumerian people who prospered in this region. Today when we read or seek information about the Sumerian, the Anunnaki, or the people that inhabited that part of the world, we come across controversial author Zecharia Sitchin. In 1976, author Sitchin published his personal translations of the Sumerian texts in a series of books called the Earth Chronicles. According to Sitchin, the clay tablets describe an alien race known as the Anunnaki, who came to Earth to mine gold. Sitchin practically suggests that extraterrestrial visited Earth in the past because their home planet needed gold to survive. Based on numerous archaeological discoveries, artifacts, records and monuments found in the past by archaeologists and linguists, Sitchin indicates that the Anunnaki, or those who came down from the heavens, an extremely advanced civilization from an elusive planet in our solar system, came to Earth, landing in the Persian Gulf some 432,000 years ago. This advanced civilization colonized our planet, and their sole purpose was to mine large quantities of gold. Approximately some 250,000 years ago, according to Sitchin, the ancient Anunnaki merged their alien genes with that of Homo erectus and created a species known as Homo sapiens, obtaining, as a result, a genetically bicameral species. However, humans were a hybrid species and could not procreate. Since the demand for humans as workers became greater, the ancient Anunnaki once again manipulated ancient mankind so they could reproduce on their own. Based on the Cosmic Code, the sixth book of the Earth Chronicles by Zecharia Sitchin, this is the real historical timeline of our planet. 450,000 years ago, on Nibiru, a distant member of our solar system, life faces slow extinction as the planet's atmosphere erodes. Deposed by Anu, the ruler Alalu escapes in a spaceship and finds refuge on Earth. He discovers that Earth has gold that can be used to protect Nibiru's atmosphere. 445,000. Led by Enki, a son of Anu, the Anunnaki land on Earth, establish Eridu Earth Station I, for extracting gold from the waters of the Persian Gulf. 430,000. Earth's climate mellows. More Anunnaki arrive on Earth, among them Enki's half-sister Ninhursag, Chief Medical Officer. 416,000. As gold production falters, Anu arrives on Earth with Enlil, the heir apparent. It is decided to obtain the vital gold by mining it in southern Africa. Drawing lots, Enlil wins command of Earth mission. Enki is relegated to Africa. On departing Earth, Anu is challenged by Alalu's grandson. 400,000. 7 functional settlements in southern Mesopotamia include a spaceport at Sippar, Mission Control Center at Nippur, a metallurgical center at Shuruppak. The ores arrive by ships from Africa, the refined metal is sent aloft to orbit as manned by Gigi, then transferred to spaceships arriving periodically from Nibiru. 380,000. Gaining the support of the Igigi, Alalu's grandson attempts to seize mastery over Earth. The Enlilites win the War of the Olden Gods. 300,000. The Anunnaki toiling in the gold mines mutiny. Enki and Ninhursag create primitive workers through genetic manipulation of ape woman. They take over the manual chores of the Anunnaki. Enlil raids the mines, brings the primitive workers to the Eden in Mesopotamia. Given the ability to procreate, Homo sapiens begins to multiply. 200,000. Life on Earth regresses during a new glacial period. 100,000. Climate warms again. The Anunnaki, the biblical Nephilim, to Enlil's growing annoyance, marry the daughters of man. 75,000. The accursation of Earth, a new ice age begins. Regressive types of man roam the Earth. Cro-Magnon man survives. 49,000. Enki and Ninhursag elevate humans of Anunnaki parentage to rule in Shuruppak. Enlil enraged, plots mankind's demise. 13,000. realizing that the passage of Nibiru in Earth's proximity will trigger an immense tidal wave. Enlil makes the Anunnaki swear to keep the impending calamity a secret from mankind. 11,000 BC Enki breaks the oath, instructs Ziusudra, Noah to build a submersible ship. The deluge sweeps over the Earth. The Anunnaki witness the destruction from their orbiting spacecraft. Enlil agrees to grant the remnants of mankind implements and seeds. Agriculture begins in the highlands. Enki domesticates animals. 10,500 BC The descendants of Noah are allotted 3 regions. Ninurta, Enlil's foremost son, dams the mountains and drains the rivers to make Mesopotamia habitable. Enki reclaims the Nile Valley. The Sinai Peninsula is retained by the Anunnaki for a post-diluvial spaceport. A control center is established.
No, I don't think that they took monkeys to make humans. I think there was already humanoids down here. Melanated humanoids on every continent on this planet. But again, this is my perspective.
On Mount Moriah, the future Jerusalem. 9780 BC Ra-or-Marduk, Enki's firstborn son, divides dominion over Egypt between Osiris and Seth. 9330 BC Seth seizes and dismembers Osiris, assumes sole rule over the Nile Valley. 8970 BC Horus avenges his father Osiris by launching the First Pyramid War. Seth escapes to Asia, seizes the Sinai Peninsula and Canaan. 8670 BC opposed to the resulting control of all the space facilities by Enki's descendants, the Enlilites launch the Second Pyramid War. The victorious Ninurta empties the Great Pyramid of its equipment. In Hursag, the half-sister of Enki and Enlil, convenes a peace conference. The division of Earth is reaffirmed. Rule over Egypt transferred from the Ra-or-Marduk dynasty to that of Thoth. Heliopolis built as a substitute beacon city. 8500 BC The Anunnaki establish outposts at the gateway to the space facilities. Jericho is one of them. 7400 BC As the era of peace continues, the Anunnaki grant mankind new advances. The Neolithic period begins. Demigods rule over Egypt. 3800 BC Urban civilization begins in Sumer as the Anunnaki re-establish the olden cities, beginning with Eridu and Nippur. Anu comes to Earth for a pageantful visit. A new city, Ur, is built in his honor. He makes its temple the abode of his beloved granddaughter Inanna-Ul-Shtar. 3760. Mankind granted kingship. Kish's first capital under the aegis of Ninurta. The Alenda began at Nippur. Civilization blossoms out in Sumer. 3450. Primacy in Sumer transferred to Nannar, Sin. Marduk proclaims Babylon gateway of the gods. The Tower of Babel incident. The Anunnaki confused mankind's languages. His crew frustrated, Marjacorra returns to Egypt, deposes Thoth. Seizes his younger brother Dumuzi who had betrothed Ninurta. Dumuzi accidentally...
Amun-Ra, that's Marduk. And that was Enki's son, but they say he's working with Enlil, and he's in charge right now. They say he's, because we live in a multiverse, right? So Mars is not a planet, but yet another dimension, a parallel world to ours. And they use stargates such as CERN to travel through these parallel dimensions in the multiverse. So they say Marduk is over there on Mars.
Accidentally killed, Marduk imprisoned alive in the Great Pyramid. Freed through an emergency shaft, he goes into exile. 350. Years of chaos end with installation of first Egyptian pharaoh in Memphis. Civilization comes to the second region. 2900. Inanna given dominion over the third region, the Indus Valley Civilization begins. 2650. Sumer's royal capital shifts about. Kingship to ruling human multitudes. 2371. Inanna falls in love with Shah Rukh or Sargon. He establishes new capital city. Akkadian Empire launched. 2316. Aiming to rule the four regions, Sargon removes sacred soil from Babylon. The Marduk-Inanna conflict flares up again. It ends when Nergal, Marduk's brother, journeys from South Africa to Babylon and persuades Marduk to leave Mesopotamia. 2291. Naram-Sin ascends the throne of Akkad. Directed by the warlike Inanna, he penetrates the Sinai Peninsula, invades Egypt. 2255. Inanna usurps the power in Mesopotamia. Naram-Sin defies Nippur. The Great Anunnaki obliterate Agade. Inanna escapes. Sumer and Akkad occupied by foreign troops loyal to Enlil and Ninurta. 2220. Sumerian civilization rises to new heights under enlightened rulers of Lagash. Thoth helps its king Gudea build a ziggurat temple for Ninurta. 2193. Terah, Abraham's father, born in Nippur into a priestly royal family. 2180. Egypt divided, followers of Ra, Marduk retain the south. Pharaohs opposed to him gain the throne of Lower Egypt. 2130. As Enlil and Ninurta are increasingly away, central authority also deteriorates in Mesopotamia. Inanna's attempts to regain the kingship for Ir does not last.
See, it's a pretty good timeline, right? I enjoyed that timeline. There they go, trying to shut our video down again. You believe this? So it's all over on TommyTruthful.com. I'll just have to download this, which we use federal fair use in the beginning. It's just Facebook trying to censor. Knowledge is power. TommyTruthful.com.